The bustling corner of Fifth and Main was a chaotic symphony of honking taxis, rushing tourists, and the rhythmic clicking of expensive heels. But amidst the noise sat Elias, a man the world had chosen to stop seeing. He was a blind street performer, his eyes clouded by a milky haze and hidden behind dark, scratched glasses. His only companion, a battered acoustic guitar, and a black Labrador that sat perfectly still at his feet. To the thousands of commuters who passed him daily, Elias was just a tragic fixture of the city, a man who lived in darkness, relying on the charity of strangers and the vibrations of the sidewalk to know the world around him. They saw his weathered hands and his faded, oversized army jacket, but they never saw the way his ears twitched at the sound of a distant footfall, or how his body remained in a state of coiled, hidden tension. They had no way of knowing that the man they pitied was once the lead operative of Aegis, a ghost unit trained by the CIA for a single impossible purpose: to identify and neutralize high-level assassins before they could ever draw a weapon. The afternoon was supposed to be a routine diplomatic stop as the president's motorcade slowed to a crawl just 30 feet from Elias's plastic tip jar. The air was thick with the presence of Secret Service agents, their eyes scanning the windows and rooftops with professional intensity. Yet they were looking for traditional threats: rifles, drones, and suspicious bags. None of them noticed the man in the nondescript gray windbreaker standing by a hot dog stand, a man whose heart rate was perfectly steady and whose movements were surgically precise. But Elias heard it. He didn't need eyes to see the phantom pulse of a professional killer. He heard the metallic snick of a ceramic blade being unsheathed and the specific, shallow breathing pattern of a man entering a combat trance. While the elite agents were looking up, Elias was already standing up, his guitar sliding to the pavement with a hollow thud that sounded like a drumbeat in the sudden silence of his focused mind. As the president stepped from the vehicle to wave to the crowd, the assassin moved, a blur of motion that should have been too fast for anyone to stop. But Elias didn't move like a blind man. He moved like a predator who had spent decades training in the dark. With a terrifying, instinctive speed, Elias lunged forward, his walking cane extending with a mechanical snap into a tactical baton. He didn't aim with his eyes, he aimed with his ears, intercepting the assassin's strike with a bone-crushing blow to the wrist that sent the ceramic blade skittering across the asphalt. The crowd screamed, and the Secret Service swarmed, weapons drawn, but they froze when they saw the blind musician standing over the pinned assassin, his foot planted firmly on the killer's throat. Elias wasn't shaking. He was standing in a perfect low-profile combat stance, his head tilted slightly, as if listening to the very heartbeat of the man he had just neutralized. The chaos of the scene was punctuated by the arrival of the Secret Service detail leader, a man who had spent his entire career in the upper echelons of federal protection. He pushed through the circle of agents, his hand on his holster, ready to demand an explanation, but he stopped dead when he caught a glimpse of a small, jagged scar behind Elias's ear, the mark of the Aegis program. The agent's face went pale, his aggressive stance instantly dissolving into one of profound, hushed reverence. To the disbelief of the onlookers and the president himself, the agent signaled his team to lower their weapons and then snapped to a rigid, trembling attention. "Ghost lead," the agent whispered, his voice barely audible over the sirens. "We were told you didn't survive the 2014 extraction." "The agency. They said you were gone." Elias didn't respond with words. He simply adjusted his dark glasses and reached down to find the handle of his dog's harness. The president, realizing he had just been saved by a man the government had officially forgotten, walked toward Elias, intending to offer a public thank you, but the detail leader stopped him with a respectful hand. "With all due respect, Mr. President," the agent said, his eyes never leaving the performer. "This man doesn't exist, and he'd prefer to keep it that way." Elias offered a short, sharp nod, the silent acknowledgement of a warrior who had completed his final mission. As the motorcade sped away and the area was swarmed by cleaners in black suits, the blind performer sat back down on his crate, picked up his guitar, and began to play a soft, melancholic tune. The world went back to ignoring him, never realizing that the man in the faded jacket was the only reason the leader of the free world was still breathing.